Let's address awareness in a little less formal approach than we took with the artist Vincent van Gogh in the essay. In police work, most of us are familiar with the different condition codes. Condition white is that clueless state where you're driving for 20 minutes and suddenly you don't realize how you got to your present position. It's very easy to do. We all do that. It's called zoning out. There's condition yellow or orange where you're aware or heightened awareness of your surroundings. Condition red, highly aware, or condition black, which is a state of panic. Everyone is comfortable with understanding those terms, but when we approach this idea of awareness for officers, there's a lot of other dimensions that need to be addressed and thought about. And some of those are from the psychological world, some are from sociological world, and some are from humanity itself. The most obvious is empathy, being aware of the feelings of others. It does not mean absorb their feelings, because as a police officer, you have to be aware of their feelings, understand their feelings. If the people you're dealing with are having a hysterical moment, a tragic moment, a confused moment, but you can't get drawn into it. You can't become overwhelmed with sympathy for it to where you lose your objectivity. You must understand what it is and take an objective and clear-cut approach that is in the best interests of the mission at hand, quickly, professionally, whatever has to be done. But some officers have a lack of empathy. They don't have any understanding. They don't know that their mission at hand might be to help someone who is in distress get home on time rather than issuing a citation for a minor infraction. There's different solutions to the mission. That's part of awareness. Another part of awareness is your personal security. One of the things that I noticed when I was running the field training officer program when I was an FTO is a concern is absence of threat perception. And as I'm going through these, I sincerely hope some of you write comments or respond back with your own experiences on these. But the threat perception is real. And I'm not saying go in like John Wick on every incident with a high level of preparedness at a way that might terrorize everybody by your presence. What I'm saying is you can perceive a potential threat. That's one level. You know there's a potential threat, so you're mentally role-playing what might be coming at you soon. You can perceive a real threat when you notice the clenching of the fists, profuse sweating, the pacing back and forth. The auditory threats, obviously pretty easy to understand, whether it's threatening or rapid circular speech or incoherent speech. Agitated groups, one person agitated is bad, two or more agitated people is worse. There's strategies for dealing with that. You'll be trained with it. It's not that tough to figure out. You know, if you're a state trooper or deputy sheriff, your backup may be 45 minutes away. You may have to take a defensive posture somewhere and hold them off until you can get more help. You may have to take whatever measures necessary to win. We're not out there to lose. And if we lose, there's nobody else. But that's another kind of awareness. Another type of awareness is in-house political awareness. You learn early on in police work and in any job, really, when you think about it. When we talk about, this is cop philosophy, but almost all of this applies to everyone in every job, if you think about it. But there's a lot of in-house politics. There's a lot of snakes, and it surprises me in police work. Some of you don't know how we get our jobs. Most major agencies, anyhow, you have to go through an interview with a board interview. You have to go through a lie detector test, what we call a polygraph. You have to go through a psychological exam. You have to go through a medical exam. You have to go through a physical fitness exam. Then there's more interviews and questioning. And then there's a background check. Then there's an academy. Some agencies have a pre-academy. You go through the academy, you go with an officer for maybe 20 weeks or more or less in some kind of a structured training program. Then there's probation for perhaps another year before they even trust you to go out. So you'd think we'd have all the bad guys weeded out, but we still get them, like any other group. And it's not just, I'm not talking corruption, I'm just talking about people of poor character who treat others poorly. You can't work in a team environment. You have poor traits, perhaps selfish, perhaps lazy, perhaps some type of personality disorder. They sneak through. Eventually, you try and find them all during the course of a police career and get them out of there, but some of them wind up doing quite well, winding up being police chiefs. And so anyhow, the point I was trying to get to is that you need to be aware of what's going on in-house and also throughout your city, the mood of the people, the mood of your beat. You have to understand, because in law enforcement, we're in service to the people. And it's not us versus them, it's us defending them. Other types of awareness are investigative awareness, obviously. You need to be able to go look at a crime scene and see things. You need to be able to interrogate, interview people and see things. Sometimes it's quite subtle. I'll talk a lot about interrogation in the future. There's a lot about investigative awareness that people miss. And, the cops sometimes don't look up. What do I mean by that? I go back to a time when guys were tearing a place apart. I was a lieutenant over a narcotics unit, and they were doing a search warrant, going crazy, couldn't figure out where the drugs were in a small apartment. And I walked in and I saw them instantly, not because I'm smarter than they are or have more experience or anything. It's just probably watched too many Westerns where the gunfighter walks in and looks around the saloon at everything and sizes everything up before he goes and orders a glass of whiskey at the bar. I walk in the doorway, I always kind of like put my back to the wall and just look around, and I happen to notice that in the ceiling light there's a big black space. And I told the guys, why don't we, I let them look around for a while first because I'm a funny guy. But eventually I said, why don't we look up, and take the glass off that ceiling light and see if there's anything up there. And sure enough, that's where a nice stash was. But it's about observational skills and kind of clearing your mind. Because here's what we do. We see what we expect to see. And this is part of awareness. If you expect to see a snake in the desert, every stick will be a snake. And our mind does this naturally. This is a survival instinct from primeval times. It's our early warning system. We subconsciously analyze everything around us, and we assess it and make a prediction about what it is before we actually look at it, if that makes sense. But that's what we do involuntarily. It just happens. So if you go in somewhere, you're going to have preconceived notions about what you expect to see, and it's very difficult. And that's why, going back to art again, one of the things that I found was helpful in drawing, and I'm not very good at any of that stuff, I just love to do it, is sitting down and trying to draw something to make it look like, when I'm done, someone else should be able to look at it and say, oh, you just drew that? They may, kind of wince, but they'll know what it was. You think, oh, there's a boat going down the channel. But until you sit down to draw it, do you really see what it is? What we can take away from all of this, I think, is that they're not only drawing, but there's a lot of techniques to help you with your awareness. Staying out of that original condition white, the whole concept of zoning out. Because as a police officer, you can't afford to do that. You can't afford to do it on the street. You can't afford to do it off duty. You can't afford to do it when you're sitting around the station, talking to your friends. You better know everything that's going on all the time. We just lost a guy in New York working an off-duty job by a psycho who went into the wrong office building, by all accounts. He didn't see that coming. I don't know the details of it. It was a horrible tragedy to lose a brother officer in that way in New York City in the NYPD. But we, all of us across the country, no matter what agency we worked in, felt that. It could happen to any of us. What times have you been off duty or working an off-duty job and maybe had your guard down? Not saying being redlined, ready to take, down a bad guy 24/7. But I am saying, always kind of keep your eyes open. Be aware. Know what's going on. Sit with your back to the wall, your eyes towards the doors. Know where your exits and entrances are whenever you go somewhere. They laugh at us old guys because we do that. There's a reason we got old. So that's cop philosophy for this week. Hope to talk to you again next week. Thank you for following along. Thank you for reading the essays. This is Daniel Byron.